this is our case study 2 with Jessica, Rosalind, Felicia, and James. So, anybody want to start? Or you want me to start?
Okay, I can read the question.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so the first question for case study title A Community of Teachers says, what guidelines could Donna have provided for the teachers prior to the grade level meetings?
I put that the guidelines could have been given to limit or narrow the evaluations. I put some examples include teachers create the observation tool that contain a reflection section. This would benefit from teachers to reflect on what worked well and what didn't. I also said she could have gave them like a short article on best practices to kind of, as a refresher to kind of what she was looking at.
Right.
To review together before creating the evaluation tool. And I put she could have also given different examples of different observation tools so they could kind of see what they liked about the ones that didn't. Make a decision on what they wanted to use.
I agree. That's the same thing I was thinking, that it should have given them some guidelines and given them really examples, maybe one from the district, because I would imagine the district should have one, but if not, look at some other districts and find some examples, and then even let them know that whatever the observations are, and that they will be able to share that with even the school, because I think if everyone sees that what these observations are looking like and how the teachers are doing on observations, it may help the whole school, because obviously there's an issue going on. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. And then a lot of them are going to be based on the structure of the class. Every class is not going to be structured the same either. So when she gave them to different grade levels, and one grade level, for example, is the class is structured on workshop and small groups, then their observation tool may look different from another grade level that does whole class instruction. So there needs to be guidelines and criteria of this is what I'm looking at in each class versus this is what I'm looking at per grade level. For them to come back and say, well, I guess I'm going to do this one. I mean, because, I'm just thinking about myself. And, well, I can't think about myself. But thinking about what we would do in the classroom when we go into classrooms for observation. It's not gonna look the same in every class, but there should be a certain structure that you're looking for in every class. So she would have given them, she would have given them some criteria saying this is what I'm looking for from beginning to end. They probably would have had a better picture.
Right. I also said that I felt two things. One, she should have given them, I'm just going off of the fact that in North Carolina, well, in most states, you have standard guidelines for observations and evaluations. So I feel like if she would have at least provided them the guidelines and expectations for district observations, then they could have had something to work with. For instance, the part that says, in order to become distinguished and accomplished, teachers lead in their environment. So if you're not being able to be reflective for yourself or for peers, then you can't be distinguished as a leader. Does that make sense? So I felt like she should have did that. And then I also said that she maybe should have given them the guidelines of how it will be tied to the school improvement activities, the purpose of it, and what support would be offered for teachers to do this. Maybe they're thinking that it's just a stretch and they're going to do it on their own. So maybe she should have provided them like examples of support that she would have given them while doing it.
Right. Okay. Anybody else got any comments for question one? All right. Moving on to question 2. How could the teacher's final plans be effective for the instructional process? So, anybody want to go first?
So I said that how could the teacher's final plans be effective? That if you're increasing the buy-in through allowing teachers to have input on the observation, then that will enhance, I guess, go back to teacher empowerment, and in turn, teachers would do better in their classrooms. If teachers know what you're looking for ahead of time and they're able to put input into that, then I feel like it'll be a better result in the classrooms as far as instructional practices. I also said, I also said that she could use the peer observations and walkthroughs to offer opportunities of coaching for the teachers to have better observations and evaluations.
And I feel that, like you were saying, it holds them accountable, because it's just like when a teacher would go into the classroom and have the students to come up with what the rules and consequences should be in their classroom. It holds that student accountable for, this is what we agreed upon. So as the teacher going in and saying, okay, when they come in, I know you're going to be looking for this, and I had input to say, this is what I should be doing.
Correct.
And it makes them understand, really, okay, I know that I should be doing this bell ring, or I know I should be doing a small group at this time because I put it in the plan. I think it will make the teachers more effective, and not sort of be like, I don't know. I don't know the word I want to use, but I feel like it holds them accountable, and It makes them feel empowered because they had an input on what you're going to be looking at when you come into my classroom, what I should be doing.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, and I think same thing. Like even like simple things like like you walk in, are the objectives written on the board clear for the students to see? All those things the teachers know every single time. This is what the administrators or whoever's doing observations looking for. Then it's going to help them be on point every single time. But you never know when someone's going to come in the room and observe you. Mm-hmm. Even this week when I've been doing my observations, I'm giving the teachers a little bit of notice, say, hey, I want to be in your room in an hour. Right. And so, but every room I've gone, the teachers already had all those things in place because they know what those expectations are.
Right. And I agree with that. Even something like thinking about in the beginning of the year at my school, we talked about, of course, they want the EQs or learning objectives posted, but one of the arguments with teachers was, I don't know what that looks like. So I don't know what you're looking for when you say you want student-friendly EQs or learning objectives on the board. So we did a PD on writing. I mean, something just that simple, writing essential questions and learning objectives that are student-friendly, that increased. When we did walkthroughs, now we see 75% of teachers have them on the board and they're student friendly, versus before maybe one or two teachers from a grade level will have them up because they really didn't understand the purpose and they didn't understand how to make the standards and essential questions student friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
I put on I kind of broke it down between each one, but I said that like the primary grades, I think they're the ones that did like they would observe each other as a group. And then kind of discuss, I said that they could assist teachers knowing their strengths and weaknesses, and the group of teachers could coach the other ones if they were strong in one area to the weaker weaker teachers, sorry. And then the other grades, I put when the ones that just did like one positive comment and one part that they need to work on, that it could allow the teachers to focus on improving one goal for their classroom of the best practices and everything that they needed to have. And then the third one, which was very bizarre about videotaping themselves and the principal, I put at least that the principal could have input and kind of coach them along the way too of things that they needed to work on to build them up as well. But it also gave them, leadership opportunities to create that, like you said, to buy into what they were doing.
And I think sometimes the good part about having peer observations is if teachers understand it's not evaluative, then most of the time they buy into that. But I think with schools, and we all seen them, where the only time you see administration is when it's time for a walkthrough or it's time for your evaluation, then that causes the teachers to tense up. So I feel like if they incorporate the peer part in there, then that allows someone else who's not evaluated to come in, critique my classroom, and give me some things I can work on to better myself.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that threat level leaves, and I think it also gives an opportunity for practice.
Right.
So when you are getting ready to receive an observation, you've been observed enough now that that nervous factor goes down, and you're able to do what you're good at, which is teaching.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, because sometimes you are more comfortable with your peer, because you know they're not, like you say, they're not evaluating you. You know, they're not going to have this big measurement tool that they're going to come through with. You know, it's more like, you know, I'm here to help you.
Right.
You know, before admin comes in.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
when you see the big man coming or big woman, when you not size, but when you see them coming, it's like, oh my Lord. I mean, you may get a little uncomfortable, but if you have a peer there that can say, hey, you know, when I saw you do this, or did you know that you did that? Or maybe you should do this. Maybe this, you know, this works. Well, how do you feel about that? It helps you to think outside the box, and then you can see what is working for someone else in your class, in their classroom, and it may be able to work. So
Right.
I think it does. It helps a lot to have a peer review.
And I think about that, for the teachers who's doing the observation, because then they say, well, hey, this teacher's doing something I'm not doing, and I can take this best practice back to my classroom and implement it on what I'm doing in my life.
And I think that just goes back to, in order for it to be effective, staff have to have the growth mindset. I think with having a fixed mindset, if you're at a school where your staff, majority of your staff have a fixed mindset, which kind of makes me think of, I'm guessing, the third grade teachers. That's how it was with them. Then this really does not become effective because
Right.
they're stuck in their ways. You know, they don't see that someone else can give me feedback and help me grow. They see as I'm perfect. Maybe I don't want to grow. I don't want to change. And that hinders student achievement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here getting a check.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to question 3. How would the principal be able to evaluate whether the new observation format was working successfully for students? I put from the new, looking at data from benchmarks and other assessments, like teachers could track students before the new format was implemented, and then throughout as the year goes on, and then even at the end of the year. That's
Right.
really what I put on that one.
I agree.
That's all you can really do. Yeah.
Right.
That's the only real measurement you're going to have is the assessment. And then also just seeing, you know, I think meeting even in those PLCs and seeing how the teachers are feeling about these observations and just talking to them honestly and saying, are you seeing improvement and growth with your own teaching from the assessment tool?
Right.
Right.
Not assessment tool, from the observation tool. This is the observation tool. And when you're putting together to help each other. I think that will give you real true measurement.
Right. For that question, I put the data collected from teacher and administrative observations to determine goals. Formative and summative assessments, like Jessica said, observation of the increase in student engagement.
Yep.
Because if there's an increase in student engagement, then you know that the teacher is really putting in best practices and listening to that feedback. Sort of like when you give, like if your principal gives you walkthrough feedback, if I give you feedback and then I come back in your classroom and I see the same thing that I gave you feedback on, then I know that you didn't implement any of the suggestions or whatever I gave you for feedback. And then I put EVOS data, because your EVOS data really is what tells you if the teachers are being able to move these students. And so if you have a teacher that's consecutively being read, they're not moving students, they're not growing students, the students aren't proficient, then that's a teacher that's not reflective to feedback.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I was on board with the with the engagement also. I mean, of course, we're going to have the formal assessments, but the formal assessments, you really can't get a true formal assessment until you get that informal. Because if you go in there and those students are engaged in what's going on, and they're really working and they are empowered, then you're gonna know. And I'm sorry, y'all, it's getting dark. I'm on the road. I'm in the truck.
It's okay.
But anyway, and the students feel empowered, and you become more of a facilitator. It's hard to get teachers to become facilitators.
It is hard.
And I mean, it's hard. Mm-hmm. So when you see that the students are being empowered and they feel like, okay, hey, I'm doing this on my own, and the teacher is there like, hey, I've scaffolded this thing, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're totally engaged, and they can come back and tell you, hey, this is what we're doing. And the class is just running, and you know that tool that you have has set something in place in that classroom where that teacher can be effective and the students can progress. Mm-hmm. And when you see student achievement that way, then that's going to be strong, and then that is going to play into the formal assessment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. And I think just seeing the implementation, I guess this one can go back to those 5 areas of, for instance, teacher placement, as far as teacher retention, should I say. The teacher retention part of it, the professional development part. If you're seeing something consistently through these observations at your school, then that might mean I need to offer some school-wide PD on this particular area, because they don't understand it, or they don't get it, or they don't know how to do it. Maybe it's I need to offer PD on growth mindset. I think a lot of that, though, that information and data from your observations can drive what happens at your school.
Yeah, and I don't feel like either that when that tool is set forth, even though we want the tool to, I guess, look the same, but how am I going to say this? What that tool should be revisited. Right. It shouldn't be like just put there in place, and I expect K through 8 to have the same. When I do the evaluation, everything is going to be the same.
Right.
Because some things are going to look different. So I know when the tool is set, I mean, it's a set tool, but I think the tool should be revisited based on teacher input. Because if you want the teachers to be empowered, and you go back in there and it's really not working, but maybe the students are progressing, then hey, what did you do different?
Right.
Or maybe this can work for this person. Okay, well, let's revamp it a little bit and let's revisit it and see if we can tweak something that that works in this area, because everyone's not going to have the same teaching style. So they may, and then you have to understand that the students are going to be different. So just revisit it and see if it's something that needs to be deleted or something needs to be added in.
And I think the important part with that is, if you're at a school with high turnover, then is you want to maintain teacher input, but the difficult part becomes, do I change this every year? If I have a high turnover rate, then every year it's going to seem like it's something new, because I don't have a retention in staff. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because I think that observation tool is going to look different for teachers who are novice teachers. Mm-hmm. If you have a high turnover rate, then you're going to be looking for a whole lot more, because you're trying to train those teachers.
Right.
And if you have a bunch of veteran teachers, then you're going to be looking for the basics, because you know that those teachers should already be excelling, or they still would not be there hopefully teaching.
Right. Because like you said, you want to have something for your initially licensed teachers. You want to have something for your abbreviated career teachers. You want to have something for your teachers who are just on standard renewal. You want to have something for your tenure teachers. You don't want them to all feel like everything is consistent, because the support is going to look different for each level as well.
Right.
That's right. So the tool should not just be consistent. How would I say, throughout the school, per se. I mean, yes, you're gonna be, like you say, you're gonna be looking for some of the same things, but after you master some of these other things, then you need to move on to something different.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, now I need to really help you to feel more empowered by saying, hey, now I feel like you're able to do this.
Right.
So you're going from developing to mastery.
Right.
Exactly. Because if the tool is the same and you have a teacher that's already mastered it and they know what you're looking for, I mean, what are you going in their class?
How are you offering them growth?
Right. And they're just going to be sitting there like, hey, this is all I have to do. So the tool needs to change. It does not need to remain the same. And it needs to have it like you said, where you have some development. I'm trying to stay where I can get some light. But I'm just getting home. But it needs to remain in place so that there is room for growth. I don't think that it needs to stay the same.
And I think they need to keep in the mindset of when you look at new teachers as a principal, it's important. Like I know the state of North Carolina states they don't want you in any area that's developing. But I feel like as a novice teacher or ILT teacher, you're going to have some areas that are developing. Does that mean that the principal needs to move me towards a MIP or action plan? I disagree with that. I do think that means that there needs to be some coaching in place, but I think the important parts of the coaching piece in order for them to be effective is the follow through. So it's coaching them and giving them time to grow. Not necessarily, I coached you on this, I gave you PD on this, and you're not implementing it. You know, it does. A leader needs to understand it takes time, especially for a beginning year teacher. There's so much other stuff I'm trying to get down pat. Allow me to choose one area to focus on and do well versus you giving me something where I have to be proficient in all 6 of these areas.
That's right. Because doing something like that is going to run a first year teacher away.
Away. That's right.
If they're trying to get in there and because I don't care how many years you have in school, it doesn't teach you how to be a teacher. You know, when you go in that classroom, they're not going to, you don't sit in the classroom and learn how to deal with little Johnny. And all of a sudden, you get there the first week, and here comes little Johnny in your classroom, and you're like, what in the world?
Little Johnny and his mama.
Right, exactly. And on top of that, you have, you know, they give you this instructional expectation list, and it's a page and a half long. And then you're looking like, what in the world? I'm going to do all of this. Little Johnny, sit down. I got to do this. And it's just not working. So I think that they should have it, you know, amended for a first year teacher to say, hey, we want you to get on board and we want you to stay here. We don't want to run you away and scare you away. So for the first year, this is your focus. And put it there and then say, okay, now you can grow into this person. And now you can do this, you know. But
and how can I support you? How can I support you to make sure that you're there? You get what I'm saying? And how can, as a principal, I be active in the support? Not necessarily sending a coach to you or sending someone else to you. How can I make sure? Because you giving me a coach does not necessarily mean that coach is really assisting me how I need assistance, or that the coach is going to help me with what you're looking for. Does that make sense? If you're looking for something in particular, then I need your support. I need you to support me. And I think principals, to be effective leaders, they need to step out of that evaluation hat as if the same thing kind of Dr. Crawford said, and step into, okay, I once was a teacher, and this is how the support was effective to me. Do the same thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody got anything else good for the group?
Nope.
That's good.
I think that does it.
Yeah, good conversation.
All righty. Well, good night, everyone. I'll send everyone the link in a few seconds as soon as I upload it.
Good night, y'all.
All right. Good night.